What are the downsides of weed that people don't talk about? It can become your own personality trait. Thank you. I'm at a college known for being notoriously heavy handed on the weed culture. Some of my peers' only goal is when they are going to get their next high and like they are so stuck in the culture that they just become sort of boring and their personality lacks dimension. I'm not someone who thinks that practice is evil, just got to use in moderation, like anything. Been smoking every day for the past decade, and I'm recently realizing that being too introspective can be a negative thing at times. I've been thinking too much and acting too little. I lost a significant chunk of my best friends in college because my senior year, all they were focused on was weed. Since I didn't smoke, we suddenly had nothing in common despite being close friends and classmates for years. Every fucking conversation at every hour of the day inevitably turned into reminiscing about the last time they got high or planning out the next time they get together to smoke. Eventually, I just stopped trying to keep in touch with them from day to day, and we never really stayed as close since then. This is how I feel a lot of the time because I don't drink. It seems like 95% of all social interaction involves alcohol. Dude, I stopped drinking because I'm an alcoholic. I'm 23 and everything still revolves around alcohol. The only people I do activities with anymore are sober people. Everything else seems to revolve around alcohol. Demotivation in heavy consumers. It is fine in moderation, but multiple times per day seems to stuck the ambition from most people I've seen, including myself long ago. South Park said it best. Well, son, pot makes you feel fine with being bored. And it's when you're bored that you should be learning some new skill or discovering some new science or being creative. If you smoke pot, you may grow up to find out that you aren't good at anything. I feel like this quote could be also applied to mindlessly scrolling through social media or playing Candy Crush like games. We drown out all the white space with this stuff and sucks away the time we would have to learn something interesting or be creative. I've noticed after the initial uptick in chatter, people tend to get really quiet and zone out in their own thoughts. When I used to smoke it, I found it had a dulling effect on my personality and conversational skills after the fact, too. I remember in high school, there was a girl in our group of friends who always wanted to smoke weed with us. And we never knew why, and never wanted her to. Because when she got high, she wouldn't say a word anymore, would be paranoid, and would just have this blank expression on her face. It was unsettling us because this girl was loud as hell and was hands down the funniest one of our group. She was like an entirely different person when stoned. I get much quieter when high, like your friend. No paranoia though. I am also usually firing on all cylinders. Upbeat and relatively funny. Well, I'd at least like to think it. For me, slowing down and being quieter gives my brain a chance to rest and dumb down a bit. My thoughts chain together a lot less logically, but it's nice to think less sometimes. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah, I'd never tell any of my sweet, lovely friends this in real life in case it hurt their feelings, but a couple of them are a lot less fun after they smoke weed. Edit to clarify, since I got a million replies. I'm specifically talking about that one friend who's really awesome, and you're having a great conversation, having the time of your life, and really connecting on a personal level, and all the cheesy stuff. Then sad friend goes outside to smoke weed and comes back and spends the rest of the night quietly sitting in a corner with their eyes glazed over staring at their phone, giving one-word answers to everything and generally being about as engaging as a brick wall. If you're reading this and thinking, wow, I am this friend, dude, I've got no problem with weed or drugs and I don't judge you for doing them. But maybe you should try smoking only half the joint next time or something. I don't know. Hate it when my friends go smoke during a party. We'll be in having a great time playing some board or card games, everyone socializing. Then they'll smoke, come back, everyone just wants to sit on the couch and watch a movie, and no one wants to talk about anything except for how high they are. Haven't told them, but it does bother me. It seems like most of my response has already been said, but I want to reiterate three major observations what I've noticed from my own semi-frequently weed consumptions. Demotivation. The impact from weed on motivation levels I find is in two parts. The first part is when you initially consume the weed. Most people fall into a habit of eating food and watching something on TV. The second part I found is the next morning I experience a type of weed hangover. The following morning, I feel more groggy and more susceptible to just loading around the following day. Anxiety. Things that aren't currently stressing you out may start to include anxiety on you. While this isn't always the case, weed has the potential to worsen your mental state if you aren't careful. This impact became more pronounced when I smoked weed solo. Having other people around allowed me to be more present in the moment, whereas I was in my head when I was alone. Food consumption. I found for me that continued weed use led to some unhealthy eating habits. The munchies are real, and far often that you are craving food that is not considered healthy. For this becomes a more common occurrence that your overall diet can go south quickly. One thing that I never see brought up is the effect of marijuana on dreaming. Marijuana use can prevent the user from dreaming during regular sleep. When the user stops using marijuana for a while, they can experience night after night of extremely vivid dreams. I can only speak for my own experience, but I have heard this echoed by a co-worker's dad who started smoking again because he couldn't handle having acid trip dreams every night. I suspect that marijuana has some potent effect on REM sleep that will remain under-documented until it is descheduled and more thorough research can be done. Weed is for people that have found their way in life. It's not for people who are looking for the way. My uncle. In other words, as fun as it may seem when you're young. Get your shit together, first education, family, career, etc. Edit. Thanks for the gilding, kind strangers. And for those of you who have taken offense. Relax. I'm glad it all worked out for you, or my sympathies if it didn't. Regardless, weed can for most people take your motivation and drive away if it's taken up and consumed in high volumes at an early age. It's just think it isn't a good idea, I think, if you're ripping bonds every day from 16 up through high school. I would say that as long-term smoker that wants out, it has made me incredibly boring. If I have evening plans on the weekend but smoke anything in the day when I'm far more prone to canceling those nighttime plans. If I do attend those plans after smoking in the day, then I feel I'm not entirely there. Awkward silences, jokes don't land, keeping a conversation going becomes 10 times harder. And I'm inevitably just waiting for an appropriate time to leave. Overall, it just kind of makes you socially awkward and super boring to be around in a social setting, just from my experience. I remember one party I was at, sitting in a corner, and the whole night felt like one of those scenes in movies, when the guy stands there and everything behind is blurry and in fast motion. People would come and sit next to me, have whole conversations that I would listen to and then go, but could not interact at all. Weird. I was trying to drink less at the time, and as a result smoked way more. It was not working. As a pretty consistent weed smoker, I don't like when people say that weed isn't addicting. They're right in saying that it's not addictive. Chemically, like nicotine or something, you can still get addicted to not being sober. I smoked pretty heavily for a long time, and I quit cold turkey one day because I realized it made me okay with things I shouldn't be okay with. The first few days to a week is awful. You're constantly like, man, I could really use a bowl. It sure would make right now better. I was just made aware there's a subreddit for people trying to get away from weed. It's called Our Leaves.